Hi, I'm Chris Clark with LandElevator.com, and in this video we're going to talk about how to make money by developing vacant land. Now, for the purpose of this video, we're going to just assume that you've already developed a single family home on the property. We have a lot of other videos out there that talk about how to develop the vacant land, but for the purpose of this video, we'll just assume that it's already been developed. So we're working with a single family home, and now we're ready to make some money. The first way to do this would be making the property into a long-term rental. Now, with a long-term rental, you're looking at renting it out to someone or a family for a longer term, such as 6 months all the way up to maybe even 10 years. It just depends on the situation. So what you want as a landlord and what the tenant wants, what's possible. Now, with a long-term rental, there's some pros and some cons. With the long-term rentals, some of the pros are it's a pretty passive investment. A lot of times you can get the tenants in the property after you sign the lease and you don't do much. You might have to do a little bit of property management depending on the age of the property and the condition that it's in, but it's a little bit more passive than some other ways of doing it. So that's a pro. The next thing is predictable revenue. You should be able to count on that check coming in every month from the tenant. So once you sign the lease, it's typical to go monthly with a rental, and you should be able to just count on that money coming in very predictably. So predictable revenue is pro number 2 with a long-term rental. And pro number 3 is tenant quality is controllable. So you can control the quality of the tenant that you get. You can do a background check on the tenant. You can do a credit check on the tenant, and you can of course meet the tenant and interview them in person, and they can interview you, and you get to know them a little bit before they become a tenant in the property. Now, some of the cons that exist with long-term rental are there's less flexibility. So if you do sign something like a 10-year lease or a 2-year lease, you will have less flexibility. The tenants are going to be there for the length of the lease term. Maybe you can work with them, maybe not, but they really have an interest in the property at that point, and you may not be able to get them out of the property. Say if you wanted to do a remodel, or say you found out that market rents went skyrocketing and they were at a lower rent and you wanted to increase the rent, you're really tied to the original lease. So there's less flexibility on lease periods and lease terms. The other one would be less potential revenue. So again, you're sort of trading the flexibility and the passive income side for maybe less potential revenue. There's more active ways you can rent out the property, which we'll talk about, that could create some more revenue. So those are some of the pros, some of the cons with long-term rentals. The next thing that we'll talk about is short-term rentals. So with short-term rentals, in today's market, the shared economy has become a really large component. So with sites like Airbnb.com and VRBO.com, we are seeing a lot of people, a lot of folks that own a home rent the home out for short rental periods, and they're usually renting it out to vacation travelers or business travelers, and they put them on these sites like Airbnb and VRBO.com. It's just becoming very common with what we're referring to as the shared economy. Some of the pros with this are there's a higher potential revenue. So you can make more money on short-term rentals historically than you can with long-term rentals. The next thing is you've got flexibility on lease periods. If you're doing a short-term rental, think 1 week to 1 month, but it's much more flexible. You can block off a lot of time to go use the property yourself or do a remodel on it, whatever you may be doing. There's just a lot more flexibility with short-term rentals. And the next thing is, you can really add a lot of value to the property by doing some cool touch-ups, some cool things. So you can get very, very creative because mostly with short-term rentals, you're going to furnish the property and you'll put the artwork on the wall. You can do a lot of things to really add a lot of value to the property and increase the rental rate. So those are some of the pros with short-term rentals. Some of the cons, the tenant quality may be harder to control. So you don't always know exactly who the person is. You probably won't even meet them. You just do these rentals on a weekly or a monthly basis, and it can be a little tough to control. The next thing is it is less of a passive investment, so you're going to be more hands-on. You're going to be dealing with more reservations. You're probably going to be dealing with some more property management, maintenance issues, things like that. There's usually more wear and tear. And the next con is it's a little bit more unpredictable when it comes to revenue. So you don't necessarily have the place booked out for a year or two in advance. Reservations are popping up, they're dropping off, and you may not even have it rented out for the entire month. It may be only rented for 80% of the month. However, that revenue still may be higher than doing a long-term rental. So you'll just have to consider that. How active do you want to be with the property as far as being a property manager, and how passive do you want to be? How much do you want the extra revenue? How much do you want to be taking care of the property? Now, there's management companies for all this as well, but one is a little bit more active and one is a little bit more passive. So those are the two primary options when we're talking about renting the property out. The next option we'll talk about is selling the finished product. So you've built this home and you're going to sell it. Now, when you sell it, the pros are you're going to receive a large sum of money all at once. So if you bought the property as vacant land, you developed it, and you're ready to sell it, you're going to get the whole chunk of your investment all back at once. You'll receive the entire return all at once. The other thing is there's no property management. You no longer own the property, so you don't have to worry about the tenants or maintenance on the property or anything like that. It's gone. You've sold it. You've taken your gains, and you're on to the next one. Now, with some of the cons are now you don't have passive income, they call it. So you won't have passive income on the property. You've taken all the money out and you made it all at once, and that's okay. Maybe it's for you, you're ready to move on to the next investment, but that is something just to be aware of. You're not building up passive income. The other one would be the tax liability on the gain. You may incur a tax liability depending on how long you own the property before you sold it. Regardless, you're gonna have a tax liability on the gain to deal with. So just think about that as well. When you rent the property out, you don't have the massive tax liability from the sale and the gain. So those are a couple of the cons, and those are really the three primary ways to make money off the development of vacant land. There's lots of other ways, of course, but for this video, we're just talking about if you developed the vacant land and how to make some money off it. Now, it's really up to you which option works best for your particular situation, both from the financial side and also from the lifestyle standpoint. So think about these options and think about what works best for you. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel and you'll be notified anytime we post a new video. Also, leave a comment below. We'd love to hear what kind of information you want to learn about when it comes to vacant land. And lastly, if you're in the market for vacant land, check us out at landelevated.com, www.landelevated.com. And otherwise, thanks for watching and see you in the next video.